Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone and to Prof. Dato John Anthony Xavier. How are you, Dato?
Oh, fine. Thank you very much, Mohammed Saidi. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts on Belanjawan 2021 with you and to the larger audience.
Yeah, can't wait. So welcome to another edition of Competitiveness Talk, organized by Malaysian Productivity Corporation, MPC. I would like to say thank you to everyone for taking the time to attend and to listen to our webinar today. We truly appreciate your participation. Today's webinar is the 45th of the series of webinars where we are focusing on Malaysia's competitiveness performance for IMD World Competitiveness Yearbook. For your information, the World Competitiveness Yearbook, or WCY, is our annual report published by the Swiss-based International Institute for Management Development, IMD, on the competitiveness of nation and has been published since 1989. But for today, we will also be focusing on our recent budget 2021, or as we know as Belanjawan 2021. Dato will later be presenting a talk titled Budget 2021 and its impact upon the nation's competitiveness. It is an interesting topic indeed. So we would also love to have the participation from our listener, as there is a space provided, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere on the top of your monitor, where you can write down your question and I will forward the question to Dato.
Yeah,
and
sure.
How fortunate we are to have Dato as our speaker for today. Prof. Dato John Anthony Xavier has served Malaysian government for 36 years as an administrative and diplomatic officer. Dato served in various management capacities in ministries and departments, including the Inland Revenue Department, Ministry of International Trade and Industry, Ministry of Science, Technology and Environment, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Primary Industries, Ministry of Finance, the National Institute of Public Administration, and the Public Service Department. In the public service, Dato engineered reform in budgeting and performance management. Dato is also a master trainer. After all that he served all the past 36 years, he is also a master trainer. He has conducted training for senior civil servants at the National Institute of Public Administration. Current training includes leadership, public service reform, public policy analysis, and case study development. He is also an academician, and as an academic, he has researched and published over 30 refereed articles on public management reform, including performance management and the Blue Ocean Strategy. He teaches corporate strategy and public policy. He has also authored 6 books on law, competitiveness, and public management, and co-authored book chapters. His latest book, which was released in 2017, is Competitiveness: What Government and Business Should Do. After all the achievement that I've just mentioned, he also has achievement in terms of international level, where Dato has worked as a consultant to the governors of Kuwait, Kenya, and Sri Lanka, IMF, World Bank, Commonwealth Secretariat, Commonwealth Association for Public Administration, Asian Productivity Corporation, and Management, and the Arab Administrative and Development Organization. These consultancies were in public budgeting, performance management, and organizational design. Dato was also the UNDP President Consultant for 4 years to the government of Kuwait in performance budgeting and performance management system. He has undertaken training and development in case study development and leadership in Kenya and Nigeria under the auspices of CAPAM. Dato has trained over 200 senior Sri Lankan civil service on strategic planning and performance management on behalf of the Commonwealth Secretariat. For his service, Dato was knighted, as they call it, Dato by His Majesty the King of Malaysia. In terms of academic and professional background, Dato holds a Bachelor Economic Honours from the University of Malaya, Bachelor of Law Honours from the University of London, Master of Business Administration from the Catholic University of Leuven, and PhD from London School of Economics. He holds a professional legal practicing certificate from the Malaysian Qualifying Board. Dato was also recently appointed as the Vice Chancellor for Asian Institute of Medicine, Science and Technology, AIMST University. Such magnificent CV, Dato.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I hand over the session to Dato. Silakan, Dato.
Yeah, thank you very much, Encik Muhammad Shahidi, for your very kind and generous introduction.
Just stating the fact.
Oh, thank you. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Please allow me to thank the Malaysia Productivity Corporation for kindly inviting me to share my thoughts on the latest budget that has been passed, that is being debated in Parliament, and we hope that it will get passed soon. And the budget 2021 has been particularly controversial. Many have chipped in with the ideas. Some say it is a good budget. Some say it is an economic recovery budget. Others don't seem to be impressed, and they say this budget is one of the worst budgets. I don't want to get into the polemics of arguing whether it's a good budget or a bad budget. I will leave it to our audience to make their own assessment. But I would like to approach the understanding of the budget 2021 from the dimension of Malaysia's competitiveness. How does the budget enhance Malaysia's competitiveness? So that's my angle on the budget 2021. So this is what we will be discussing. We want to see what is competitiveness. If we are talking about what is the impact of budget 2021 on competitiveness, we need to know what is competitiveness. And then, of course, very quickly, why is competitiveness important? I suppose everyone knows about it, but it's just a primer to refresh ourselves as to why we need to enhance competitiveness and what is the role of budget 2021 in this respect. And finally, this is our focus. How has budget 2021 promoted the nation's competitiveness? These are the three things that we will discuss. In the meantime, please feel free to interject with your questions while we are going on, so that it may not be a monologue, but rather an interactive session. I will be more than happy to take questions midway through the presentation. That's not a problem. And if I can't answer, our panel chair, Encik Muhammad Shahidi, will answer it for us. So no, don't worry. We will get all the questions answered. Okay. So we'll go for the first topic. What is competitiveness? Well, basically, competitiveness of a nation. There is no such thing as national competitiveness, because competitiveness is just a collection of the individual competitiveness of our businesses, of our companies. So collectively, they promote national competitiveness, so to speak. So the proper terminology that we'll use is, what is the nation's competitiveness? And it is basically the ability of our companies to compete successfully in international markets. They're able to export better quality products, able to export more. And of course, another dimension of competitiveness is, if we are as a nation competitive, then we are in a better position to attract foreign direct investments and talent into the country. As we know, COVID has hit the globe very hard. The FDIs are shrinking. In fact, the World Trade Organization predicts the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development predicts that there will be a 40% reduction of foreign direct investments worldwide. And we in Malaysia also feel the heat, and the estimate is we will lose half of the FDIs that we got last year in 2019. Not that we are going to lose, but the amount of FDIs that are going to come into Malaysia will be half that of last year. So if we are able, even in these trying circumstances, if we are able to attract foreign direct investments from coming to Malaysia and not going elsewhere, then that is a testimony or a testament to the nation's competitiveness. And of course, with FDI comes foreign talent, foreign technology. They allow us opportunities for the local supply chain to be plugged in to these foreign investments, and bingo, that will make a big impact to our national recovery and to jobs and wages. So the ECB ex-president Mario Draghi, the former president, says competitiveness is the institutional and macroeconomic conditions that allow firms to compete and productive firms to thrive, and in the process they support the expansion of employment, investment, and trade. And the IMD defines competitiveness as the ability to manage the totality of our resources, enhance the productivity of all our natural resources, oil, palm oil, plantations, these natural resources that we have. If we can enhance their productive use, then bingo, it will bring us increased prosperity. So competitiveness on one level is about our ability to compete successfully in international markets, draw in FDI, and at the same time use our resources in a more productive fashion, and that will add up to competitiveness. So we want to ask why competitiveness, and we said, of course, the nation's competitiveness ultimately depends on the productivity of our resources, labor, capital, and natural resources. So once it enhances the way we use it, the more productive way we use our labor, capital, natural resources, that will promote the nation's competitiveness. It will attract FDI, talent and skills, promote sustainable employment and wages, and that will contribute to national prosperity. And the attraction of FDI is because FDIs help develop, together with our local investments, an ecosystem that boosts innovation, investments, and ultimately productivity. So in fact, when we talk about competitiveness, we are talking about productivity. The more productive we are, the better we can export. And the more productive we are because of the ecosystem, the more we will attract FDIs, and they will make us even more productive. And with rising competitiveness, we will be able to share and enjoy greater prosperity. So productivity determines competitiveness, which in turn boosts productivity. So it's a virtual cycle. So productivity determines competitiveness. If we are competitive, then it will further enhance our productivity. And so what are the elements of a productive environment? The global competitiveness, the global competitiveness report, another dimension of competitiveness to the IMD, International Management Development Institute, that comes up with the World Competitiveness Yearbook. This assessment of global competitiveness, the World Competitive Forum, they say you've got 4 elements that develop the most productive environment to enable a company to be competitive internationally. And that is, number 1, business efficiency. The business must be efficient and effective. But for a business to be efficient and effective, the government efficiency largely contributes to business efficiency. The speed and efficiency of the government's delivery system will determine the speed and efficiency of the business and the private sector. So they both go together. Then, of course, infrastructure development that provides the necessary ecosystem. And finally, economic performance. If the economy is not doing well, if the economy is in recession as we are now, then that would not conduce, that would not promote our global competitiveness. So we need to work on these four components: government efficiency, business efficiency, infrastructure, and economic recovery, to ensure that Malaysia continues to enjoy a competitive position in the global marketplace. And the World Economic Forum identifies a further 12 pillars of competitiveness. We saw four main areas, and here are the 4 pillars, 12 pillars: institutions, infrastructure, macroeconomic environment, health and primary education, higher education and training, market efficiency, labor market efficiency, financial market development. Do we have a deep bond market where companies and government can raise funds locally so that they don't have to go abroad to raise money, which would then expose them to foreign exchange rate? And are we technologically ready? Are we advanced in terms of technology? Market size, do we have the right market size, both locally as well as overseas? Business sophistication, how sophisticated are our companies? As we know, 98.5% of our businesses are all SMEs, small, micro, small, and medium scale enterprises, and only about 60% are tech savvy. So business sophistication in terms of using high tech digital technologies are also crucial in determining whether our nation will be competitive and will remain to be competitive in the future. And of course, innovation. And as we can see from this picture, we see most of the innovative economies in the world are also the most competitive ones. So because they are innovative, they are competitive. So better innovation, more innovation means better export capability. FDIs will be attracted to a country where it is very strong in innovation, very strong in R&D, and together they contribute to the competitiveness of the nation. So, innovation is very important. As we can see, Finland, Sweden, Germany, US, Korea, they are all highly innovative. And because they are very highly innovative, they are also very highly productive and highly competitive. I would like to quickly again, sorry, we still haven't come to the crux of our discussion today, how Budget 2021 will enhance the nation's competitiveness. So we saw the World Economic Forum's understanding of competitiveness. Let me also share with you another model developed by Michael Porter. He is the resident guru in the Harvard Business School, and he has come up with this model of what determines a nation's competitiveness. And he argues that there are 2 elements of a nation's competitiveness. One is the macroeconomic factors. These are the monetary and fiscal policies, human development and political institutions. And at the microeconomic level, there are 3 components that determine the nation's competitiveness. This is the quality of the business environment, the ecosystem, the state of cluster development, and the sophistication of our businesses, sophistication of our company operations, how tech savvy are they, how digitalized are they, and what is their strategy? Are they inward looking, just becoming jago kampung, or are they outward oriented to be the best in the world? And many of our local companies like Vitrox have become international market players across the whole world. And Vitrox, for example, produces X-ray testing equipment, and they sell abroad, and they are one of the largest companies in that field. So we have the potential, but we need to take care of all these components to ensure that Malaysia remains competitive, to export more, and to attract FDIs. And of course, endowments are also very important. Our resources, climate, sunshine, soil, talent, the strategic location, they're all endowment, and they have to be used more productively to ensure that we remain competitive. But Michael Porter says if you don't have endowment, if you don't have natural resources like Singapore, Switzerland, Japan, excuse me, you don't have to worry. Focus on the macroeconomic factors and focus on the microeconomic factors. So I would like to also focus on how, excuse me, how Budget 2021 impacts on these elements at the macroeconomic level and at the microeconomic level. So we will see, we have seen what is competitiveness, ability to export more, attract foreign direct investments, talent, technology. We saw why it is important, because competitiveness ultimately determines our prosperity, our wealth. If we can export more and attract foreign direct investments, we will expand the employment market, enhance wages through better training and talent. And of course, all these will add up to our nation's prosperity. Now we will talk about specifically, and this is the crux of our presentation today, how has Budget 2021 promoted competitiveness? And we will use Porter's model because that seems to be more inclusive of the various criteria offered by the IMD World Competitiveness Yearbook and the World Economic Forum 12 pillars of competitiveness. So these are all well encapsulated in Michael Porter's model. So we'll use this broad model to discuss the impact of Budget 2021 on the nation's competitiveness. Any questions so far?
No, it's very clear though. So
Lovely.
we understand competitiveness is important to improve FDI, and you'll be using Michael Porter's model to further explain it. So
beautiful. Thank you. So we'll go on to the third one. I mean, this is where we may end up with a little bit of controversy. Okay, so we saw this. Let's now take the first element of our macroeconomic competitiveness, meaning what are the macroeconomic conditions that help determine a nation's competitiveness? And that is both monetary and fiscal policies. They set the bar for high productivity. So if your monetary policy is well managed, there is not much inflation, there is not much stagnation, interest rate is not too high, not too low, fiscal management, we are not running high excessive debt, excessive deficits, the government finances are well managed. Bingo, that will offer us a macroeconomic stability that will then be able to provide the foundation for the country to enhance its competitiveness in the global marketplace. But again, the macroeconomic factors are necessary. You must have them, but of themselves, they do not determine competitiveness. They need to be blended with the microeconomic conditions, especially the quality of the business environment. We will focus today on the quality of the business environment. The state of cluster development, sophistication of the company is something that is very specialized, and it may not be something that we can take it in an annual budget. It should be in the 12th Malaysia plan. And of course, sophistication of company operations is always ongoing. AMDAC is in the business of promoting digitalization in companies. They are busy promoting startups, trying to get SMEs into e-commerce. So that is going on. and we'll see how the budget provides incentives for companies to enhance their sophistication. Cluster development, yes, the budget has also come up with regional projects across the economic corridors, but they are in terms of projects, they're not in terms of clusters. When we talk about clusters, we are talking about the co-location of competitors and their supporting and related industries together. A classic example is the Penang electrical and electronics cluster. So you have all the competitors there in Penang, you've got all the suppliers in Bagan and in the Penang Island, you've got logistics, you've got ports, you've got talent is there, everything is there. That is the cluster that we are talking about. But the budget seeks to focus more on the industrial parks, which can become a potential for cluster development. So we'll also touch a little bit on that. But the basic thrust of our budget 2021 has been on improving the quality of the business environment at the microeconomic level. So we will now start off with the monetary and fiscal policy that has that is part and parcel of our budget 2021. As we know, fiscal policy ensures economic stability. If we are too much in debt, too much in deficit, our ratings will go down. The rating agencies will downgrade our rating. It'll be more costly to borrow money. FDIs will look at these numbers and say, oh, it is not a good place to invest. Let us go and look somewhere else. So fiscal policy management is very important to ensure economic stability, which will then ensure the nation's competitiveness. And as we know, the budget is is the biggest budget so far at 322 billion, and it is vital. I'm so sorry, there is a small typo error. So the 322 billion budget is the biggest ever in our Malaysian history, and it is vital to keep businesses afloat. So the fiscal policy is designed to ensure businesses survive. That's so that they don't go under and take us all with us to the vortex. And because the government is serious about refloating the economy, that will give a sure and ready confidence for foreign direct investments. And the budget promises to stem the downward spiral of the economy. And with proper fiscal management, the government hopes to turn the economy around so that this year the economy contracts at 5 to 6%. Next year, boom, we will boom at 7.5% next year. And how is this done? The government has sought to pump prime the economy, keep pumping money so that people have money, people and businesses have money to spend. And as they spend, they kickstart the multiplier effect, they kickstart the virtuous cycle. When people spend, they create a demand, businesses start investing on equipment to produce the goods, and then wages will increase, employees will be brought into the economy, unemployment will go down, and that will drive economic growth. So the whole idea of the government in our 2021 budget has been to put more money, pump more money into the economy. And they've given a number of handouts, a number of subsidies. We have the Bantuan Sara Hidup, the living aid allowance. It has gone up to 1,800. The one-off payment of 500 ringgit for MOH frontliners. Then their special monthly COVID-19 allowance will continue. People now can withdraw the EPF contribution, 500 per month, and there has been a 2% reduction in EPF contribution in 2021. There has been a 1.5 billion wage subsidy, especially to tourism and retail sectors, businesses that are finding it hard to pay back their loans. The loan moratorium has been extended so that they have enough money to generate business to revive their businesses and to employ and to generate economic growth. So through pump priming, the budget hopes to ensure economic stability, which is one of the crucial factors in the nation's competitiveness. And I think budget 2021 does this extremely well. Everywhere the government has not spared money to ensure that people have the money to spend. Employees have the subsidies, employers get subsidies, businesses get assistance and incentives, and together they will combine to enhance private investment and private spending, and together with government expenditure, they will be able to help revive the economy and ensure economic stability. So I think in that respect, in terms of the overall stance and thrust of the budget 2021, it does extremely well. And I think nobody can quibble on that, although people might say the money is going differently, money should have gone there, money should have gone here. But overall, we are not here to make judgments as to where the money should go, but this is how the government has sought to spend and pump money into the economy.
Yeah.
Then we will look at the monetary policy. The monetary policy, although it is not part of the budget, it has been lately been expanded. The monetary policy has been expansionary, and it supplements the fiscal policy. Fiscal policy has got a more direct impact. Monetary policy takes a bit longer time. It also suffers from the liquidity trap, meaning that yes, you have money in the banks. The banks are flushed with money, but nobody is borrowing. So that's a liquidity trap. Why? Simply because the economy is in the doldrums. Investors are a bit diffident, not so confident in borrowing and to improve their business operations because they do not know what's installed with them. So this because of this problem, monetary policy has a more longer term impact. But nevertheless, monetary policy complements fiscal policy to bring up and prop up the economy, especially during times of crisis. And so what is our monetary policy? It has been expansionary. The Bank Negara Malaysia has brought down the benchmark interest rate, the rate at which banks borrow from one another should they be short of funds, and that will be the basis rate to decide on the interest rate that the banks will charge their borrowers and depositors, and that has been brought down to 1.75. It is among the lowest in modern monetary history. The statutory reserve ratio has also been brought down to 2%, where banks will have to put 2% of their funds that depositors deposit with their banks with the central bank. So now it has been reduced to 2%. So there are more funds for the banks to lend more in the hope that investors, businesses will borrow and enhance their business operations. So, and of course, because the benchmark interest rate is so low, we hope that it will spur private consumption. Because it's so low, people can borrow, they can start buying on hire purchase. In fact, I recently bought my car on hire purchase because the interest rate is so low. So this is what the monetary policy seeks to do, to promote private spending and private investments so that the economy can grow and help offer economic stability and eventually the nation's competitiveness and prosperity. So that's the role of monetary and fiscal policy. So going back to the budget, I think we don't have any qualms that the fiscal policy is designed to ensure economic stability. And together with monetary policy, we hope that next year the projected 7% growth will come to fruition. So fiscal policy, okay. Now we look at human development and political institutions. Michael Porter argues that these two macro factors are also fundamental and critical to the nation's competitiveness. How does Budget 2021 fare along the two dimensions of human development and political institution? Well, human development is again fundamental to competitiveness because human development and political institutions enhance productivity growth. And because of productivity growth, they enhance the business competitiveness and the national prosperity. And Budget 2021 does a good job as well because it has increased allocations to health services, 32 billion. It has increased allocation to education, nearly 50 billion or 16% of the total budget, the biggest chunk of the total budget. And Powell Doctrine, you can see Colin Powell. Colin Powell was in the former administration of Bill Clinton. He was the chief of the armed forces, and then in George Bush, he was the Secretary of State. And his doctrine is, if you want to wipe out the enemy, he was a Vietnam War veteran. He took a bullet, and he came up with this doctrine. He came up with this proposition that coalesced into a Powell doctrine. And he says, if you want to wipe out the enemy completely from the face of the earth, then you should shunt extraordinary, disproportionate amount of resources to wiping out the enemy. So here we have COVID-19 as our enemy. And here we have the COVID-19 disrupting our education system. And the pandemic is raging. Now we are in the throes of the third wave. And so based on the COVID doctrine, Powell doctrine, what we would want to see is the government spending extraordinary amount of money on human development in terms of education, social welfare, health. We saw social welfare early on in the fiscal policy. And so, and especially given the increased allocation of health services and education, the COVID-19 fund has been raised by 20 billion to 65 billion. This was the temporary COVID fund that was passed in the last parliamentary session, which will last till 2022. And they have increased it by another 20 million to 65 billion, and another 1 billion specifically to fight the third wave of the pandemic. So this goes into health services and human development, and we hope that we should be able to flatten the infection rate to revive the economy. So that if the inflation rate, if the infection rate is very high, then your livelihood, your economic growth will be less, because then you have lockdowns, you have controls in movements, businesses can't open that long. So if we can bring down the infection rate from red to blue, then down below the economic growth will further go down. Yes. So therefore, it is good to attack the enemy, COVID-19, with all the guns that we have. And this is the allocations that has been given. And I would think that although people would think otherwise, that this allocation is not sufficient. We have been putting big allocations on other items of expenditure, but what is 65 billion? What is 1 billion to fight the COVID? It's not much, they would say. But that's, everyone has his opinion. But the government has done something to ensure that there is human development to enhance productivity growth and competitiveness in budget 2021. I mean, there is a limit to what the government can do, and it cannot go on borrowing in perpetuity. It has to worry about fiscal management. It has to worry about socioeconomic stability. And so nobody will be satisfied in getting what they are going to get in 2021. But the point is, the budget does take into consideration the importance of human development in competitiveness, and has accordingly allocated money for health services, education, specifically to fight the pandemic, and in social welfare to ensure that our competitiveness grows, and thereby when next year comes, we will be able to attract more FDIs, especially those that are relocating from China because of the trade war that is going on. Even now, maybe until the next president comes in, we do not know what will happen. Until then, the trade war carries on, and many are finding that their supply chains disrupted. So they're all seeking to relocate from China to Southeast Asia, and we are best poised to draw them in if we can ensure that, hey, look, our socioeconomic condition is good and stable. Come to Malaysia. So this is human capital, human development. Let's look at the political institutions. So environmental stability. So environmental stability is also part of human development. Environmental welfare. Now we see Delhi covered in smog. We hear of China also covered in smog, although we don't know what's the situation today. But and budget 2021 for the first time incorporates environmental sustainability as part of its agenda, and it has allocated 5.6 billion ringgit to protect natural resources, wildlife, and biodiversity. It has allocated $500 million to clean up rivers, manage waste, protect biodiversity and forests, and another 20 million to enhance its campaigns to bring about greater awareness that if we do not take care of our environment, our human development will surely fail, and that would have a deleterious impact, a very bad, damaging impact on the nation's productivity. People will get sick, there's no water supply, and the nation will fail. The nation's competitiveness will drop simply because foreign direct investments may not want to come in a country where people are always falling sick. The environment is not healthy. It is devoid of any green cover, etc., etc. So human development, we have education, health, welfare, environmental sustainability, and they have been covered by the 2021 budget. Although we may want to quibble as to whether more money should have been put into human development, but that's another story. And then 2 billion has been allocated for the green technology financial scheme to encourage the private sector to participate in green technology. So we want the private sector to get into green technology, which is slightly more expensive, but the government says we will give you financing. I mean, at cheaper rates. So the 2021 budget allocates 2 billion for the green technology financial scheme. It has come up with a sustainability bond under Sukuk Prihatin for green economic growth. So it will issue bonds on green bonds, meaning that the money that has been generated will only be used to promote green economic growth. And of course, the government in budget 2021 has promised that it will study the adequacy of the environmental legislation and enforcement. Now we have political institutions. Well, political institutions, good governance are vital in promoting competitiveness, as we saw under the macroeconomic factors. The Transparency International 2019 Corruption Perception Index, we are number 51 out of 180. And over the last 20 years, the index has worsened by 30%. We were 36 in 2001. So in terms of governance, we have eroded our position. Then there has been a lot of arguments that our e-procurement rules can be improved to reduce corruption and to have readier access to tender applications. So it's very vital to have institutions, good institutions, and good governance. What does Budget 2021 say? Well, the budget 2021 strengthens good governance and integrity. And budget 2021 undertakes to implement the National Anti-Corruption Plan and the recruitment of another 100-odd officers to the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission to ensure that the MACC is sufficiently beefed up to promote better governance and integrity in the country. And of course, budget 2021 also says we will ensure better legal enforcement, and we will reward whistleblowers for any law violation. As part of good governance, we will reward all those who inform the authorities that there has been a violation, especially river pollution. And we keep on in this 1 year alone, we have had 7 water disruptions because of pollution in rivers, pollution in water catchment areas. And so budget 2021 seeks to contribute to better governance and integrity, which will then contribute to competitiveness and national prosperity through the provision for reward for whistleblowers on any law violation. But could more be done? Yes, more could be done. Again, it's a very contentious issue, but there's something that we would have to talk about in another conference about whether we should have a code of conduct for ministers, whether we should ensure and enshrine the independence of MACC in legislation, meaning that they will report to Parliament immediately, and they only report to Parliament. Parliament has reformed in a way because they have now revived their 8 special standing committees to review the budget, to review any laws, any bills that come to Parliament for legislation. Again, it's an open debate as to whether more could be done in reforming institutions under budget 2021. Let us now go to the quality of business environment.
To disturb a bit, because there is a question. Yes, while it's still hot, I guess it's better for you to answer it now.
Lovely, sir. Lovely, sir.
Yeah, it's from Cik Muhammad, I think, our Muhammad. Prof. Dato, can this budget trigger a shift in the economy towards a higher value-added economy that Malaysia needs to become a higher income country?
Yeah. In fact, that's the whole agenda of the government. We want to move away from a resource-based economy, plantation economy. We want to move away from a low base, low technology, highly reliant on low skilled labor to new growth areas that are high in technology, high in value addition. That's the agenda, that the industrialization agenda that we have had over the last two national 5-year development plans, and I'm sure it's going to figure prominently in the 12th Malaysia Plan. In fact, the 11th Malaysia Plan that we are in identified some 230 new growth areas to be developed that is high in value addition and high in technology. And yes, this budget helps to contribute to that agenda and to that journey. We will tackle this under our quality of business environment. We will see this. We will answer the question when we talk about the quality of the business environment, and there we can see what has been the budget allocation to help propel the economy to a high technology, high value added economy.
Okay.
So in a moment, please hold on. We will try to get this organized. I think I've been talking too much. We're already 45 minutes. Give me another 15 minutes, and I'm done.
Okay.
Again, to understand the quality of the business environment, what are the constituent elements of the quality of the business environment? Michael Porter talks about 4 components of a business environment, and if we have all these 4, bingo, our quality of business environment is very high, and therefore we we will be very high on the microeconomic factors that promote competitiveness. So let us focus more on the input conditions. So input conditions are the factor conditions, and factor conditions mean that for a good ecosystem, you need to have skilled labor or advanced infrastructure. Okay, so what is this advanced infrastructure? The advanced factors are your R&D, your skilled labor, your research, technology, education, knowledge, and process needs. So sustained productivity and competitiveness comes from creating and continually upgrading these specialized factors. So what has Budget 2021 done to enhance these advanced factors that contribute to the better business ecosystem and to the nation's competitiveness? Well, Budget 21 has massively is going to massively invest in infrastructure. It has allocated 15 billion ringgit to build and upgrade roads, rail, and bridges. They're going to the high-speed rail. They're going to intensify the Pan Borneo Expressway in Sabah and Sarawak. They are going to do bridges and roads and port development in Selangor. They're going to upgrade the railroad system from Gemas to Johor Bahru. So there's a lot of infrastructure that is going on to create this business environment. And of course, again, development allocation has been allocated. Development allocation is about 70 billion, which is the highest in history, to bring about greater capacity building so that we have the capital expenditure to upgrade our capacity, be it talent, be it infrastructure, etc. So that's one element. So yes, to some extent, Budget 2021 helps improve the business ecosystem. Then, of course, to develop a business ecosystem, you will need high broadband speeds. We have a broadband, but it's not broad. Malaysia comes in 30th globally. Compared to Singapore, Singapore has topped the league table for fixed broadband speeds for 12 times in the row, only to be pipped by Taiwan in 2019. Only in 2019, Singapore lost out to Taiwan. Our digital adoption index is 41 upon 180. So we must do something about digital connectivity, broadband speed. What is Budget 2021 doing? Well, Budget 2021 has allocated 27 million for cybersecurity. It has given various tax breaks to attract investments to transform Malaysia into a digital economy. It has allocated 8 billion ringgit for the national digital network and for upgrading broadband services, 1 billion ringgit for scheme transformasi pengdigitalan industry for them to assimilate industry 4.0 technologies like data analytics, AI, Internet of Things. Then they have specifically allocated 150 million for SME digitalization scheme grant and automation grant for SMEs to digitalize, to digitally transform their manufacturing chains and reduce reliance on manual labor. So this is a small contribution by Budget 2021. And I'm sure the future budgets and the previous budgets have made their own individual contributions to upgrading our nation's manufacturing to a higher value added and a high technology industry. So this is one aspect. And then we also have Jendela, another 42 million to upgrade the national digital network to provide 430 schools with better internet access for an improved online learning, because a 6 months break of school can have a damaging impact on the child's earning capacity in the future. So Budget 2021 wants to ensure that our talent is safeguarded, and the only way to do it is while the lockdown remains, or the conditional movement order where schools are closed because they are non-essential. They are a non-essential industry. I don't know how come they're non-essential. In fact, they are essential because they develop the nation's talent. And plus 50 million has been allocated to the Malaysian Research and Infrastructure Network to increase the speed of the network from 500 to 10 GB. So again, all these digitalization efforts should help us to ensure better value added and high technology industry. Digitalization itself, it's a high tech industry. So people using digitalization, automation that has been made possible because of this digital infrastructure will surely help promote competitiveness. And I think Budget 2021 has made a contribution. Again, we may want to quibble whether it is significant, but again, budgeting is a political exercise. It's all about who gets what, when, and how. So this is what digitalization gets, and I think that it is still a contribution to enhancing and to accelerating our journey to a high-tech, high-value-added economy. And then, of course, upskilling talent for the digital economy, 1 billion to upskill talent, 100 million for MDAC to continue with its upskilling of more digitally ready professionals. So again, Budget 2021 seeks to enhance the talent to feed into this high value-added, high-tech industries that are being promoted. And this promotion is just not in Budget 2021. The promotion is a larger agenda of industrialization as a result of in the fourth industrial revolution. So we have a longer term plan of the 11th Malaysia Plan, and now it's going to be a 5-year 12th Malaysia Plan come January. And Budget 2021 seeks to concretize the plans in these, especially 2021 will be the plan that has been built that's going to be built in the 12th Malaysia Plan. So the Budget 2021 will be the phased crystallization or the annual segmentation of the 5-year plan of 2021-2015. So yes, the budget has made its contribution to the development of value-added and high technology industries, and there's more to come. We say global attractiveness is a necessary condition for being able to attract FDIs and to ensure high and rising prosperity. So Budget 2021 strengthens the business ecosystem for local and foreign investors. Incentives are there to shift, to enable a shift in the global pattern of FDIs to Malaysia. Again, incentives to capture the limited FDIs that are floating around the world. Hey, come to Malaysia. We offer you a 1 billion special incentive package for high value added technology investment. And this goes to Encik Mohammad's question. So we have a 1 billion special incentive package for high value added technology investment. So you come in with high technology that upgrades our local talent, does away with menial labor, automation, AI, Internet of Things. Then we have a Banggara has promised a 500 million high technology fund for high tech and innovative companies. The budget 2021 provides 1.4 billion to develop the local supply chain so that they will be able to support these high tech and innovative companies. And then again, 2 million has been allocated to improve internet connectivity in industrial parks, 100 million to improve maintenance in industrial parks, which have the potential to develop clusters of similar industries. And pharmaceutical companies, we are trying to attract foreign companies, and they will enjoy a tax break of up to 10% for 10 years if they invest in Malaysia. And pharmaceutical companies, all high tech, high value added, they come up with one good vaccine, and bingo, that's very high. The whole nation will live longer, will be able to contribute longer for the development of the country. And of course, if foreigners can come and set up their global trading centers, we will again give them a concessionary tax rate of 10% for 5 years. Again, these are from Budget 2021. And So I would like to end here. There's of course more can be done. Many say more can be done by budget 2021 to improve the business ecosystem. There's no mention about bringing down the bureaucracy, cutting red tape, tearing down the bureaucracy. Yes, because that is all ongoing. It has been going on in the past, it will go on today, and it will go on in the future. So we don't have to worry. It has been well catered for. And so although that part is not mentioned in the budget 2021, it is already in the scheme of things of the government. So EJ Muhammad Shahidi, I will stop here so that we can have a more interactive session. I'm sorry I blew my time. I took longer than I promised.
No.
Yes, sir.
This is actually very nice. Just nicely timed.
Thank you, sir.
We are waiting for questions. Yeah. If there's any question to Dato, we are welcoming it. Please do so. Meanwhile, while waiting for the question, I do have not to say a question, but I guess in summing it up. So Dato, you are saying that this budget is really inclusive, yeah.
Yes.
Basically, it's covering every aspect. And do you see any areas where you think it's quite glaring? An area where it's quite glaring, where macam tak dapat banyak lah. One area that you think, in your opinion.
I think that allocations to health could be even expanded more. We are putting a lot of money on, for example, the government publicity program, JASA, which is now a subject matter of controversy. They say JASA is just will slowly morph into a government propaganda, like what happened during Barisan Nasional. They had JASA for the noble objective of informing the public of the government policies, but the previous Barisan Nasional government had hijacked it, and they were trying to promote a political agenda for the purposes of winning at the ballot box. So we have what 70 or 80 billion, 80 million ringgit allocated to JASA. On the surface, it is good, provided it is faithful to its objective of explaining government policies to the people. But if it is hijacked for some other political purpose, then that money could be better utilized in the provision of better health services, in the provision of better education, for example. Like recently during the pandemic, when the schools were closed down, again now they also closed down. The Ministry of Education was trying to move fast to introduce online training, but they couldn't because only 40% of the students had a digital device to receive online training. Broadband coverage in the rural areas was very poor. There is a digital divide between rural and urban. So much so we had this very classic case of Viviana, who climbed up a tree somewhere in May this year in Sabah, in one of the rural areas of Sabah, to get a connection to sit for an exam. So that's a very deplorable state of broadband development, internet connectivity, and I think we should spend more money on internet connectivity and broadband, more so when we are trying to be a digital hub in Southeast Asia. So our ambition is by 2025, Malaysia will be a digital hub in Southeast Asia. But then we have only allocated about 8 billion ringgit in our budget 2021. 8 billion is nothing much. And therefore, I think this is where we could spend more money on digitalization. And of course, the businesses were saying that there's nothing in the budget for us. Well, there is some. There is funds for digitalization, but they must also realize that much of the funding has been allocated under the 4 fiscal stimulus packages. So they have been catered for. but they feel that there's nothing in the budget. That's true, there's nothing much in the budget, but there's also funds, financing for them to enhance the sophistication of their company operations, take their operations to a higher level, greater automation, greater Internet of Things, so that they do not have to continue to rely on unskilled labor, especially foreign labor. So I would think if there is one area where it is glaring, it is the efforts at digitalization of the economy. Yes, there's been some allocation, but it could have been more.
Yeah. Hello, Dato. Kind of like miss you a bit right now.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I should hold this. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to repeat?
No, it's okay, I guess. Because there's a question from Encik Muhammad. Again from Encik Muhammad. Yes. There was a slide on institutional reforms earlier. Can Prof Dato elaborate on that?
There is a book on how institutions promote welfare. Good institutions promote economic development. This is by Aaron. I can't get his name. It's Bruce Amis and Aaron something, and they say good institutions promote economic development. Bad institutions or corrupt institutions make the situation worse. And they compare countries like America, and they compare countries in Latin America. In countries in America, they've got rule of law. They can even sue the president. They can even go after the president. They don't care who you are. They have a very competent legal administration. There is impartiality. Everything seems to be favoring good governance in countries like America, in Europe. Of course, we don't say that they're totally squeaky clean. There's also corruption, but generally, compared to third world countries like Africa, Latin America, where the system of governance in terms of strong institutions, either the institutions are controlled by the military, there is no empowerment of these institutions, citizens don't have a voice, the legal system is corrupt. So these kind of institutions do not favor economic growth and competitiveness. So if you want to be competitive, then you must have, number one, rule of law. And rule of law has got many dimensions. For example, one of which is party hopping. Political parties, political representatives go to the elections under one party, and after they have won, they move over to another party, and this frog jumping can even bring down a duly elected government. I mean, we don't have to say more. Malaysia is a classic example. And so this kind of deficit in the rule of law, this kind of institutional deficit does not engender confidence among investors for them to come. Hey, today we come, tomorrow another jumping takes place, and then another government comes in, and then and there's going to be a lot of confusion, and say we'll wait at the sidelines before we have political stability. So rule of law, do we enforce the law, or do we enforce it in fits and starts? Is it segmented? Are we consistent in enforcing the law? Is there much discretion in the implementation of law? Is our judiciary clean? Yes, they are clean, but the perception is that they are not clean. So what can we do about it? What else? Parliamentary supremacy. I mean, is Parliament really independent of any political stronghold, stranglehold? These kind of reforms, If people can perceive Parliament to be impartial, for example, it is not beholden to any political party or not beholden to the party in power, then that will give greater confidence for businesses to start investing in our nation. And of course, with investments, productivity increases, competitiveness increases, institutions in terms of good governance. And we saw good governance during the pandemic, how the public service rose through self-sacrifice. Look at our frontliners. They have sacrificed their lives. I mean, at the risk of their lives, they have put others before their self. They have not seen their families for many days, months, worried that they might infect their families. They have then agencies have collaborated with one another. The police collaborates, the army collaborates with the police to enforce lockdowns and control movement orders. We see a fantastic and a dynamic display of cross-agency collaboration. We see leadership. We see political leadership coming every day and briefing us on the state of the pandemic. We see bureaucratic leadership, Ministry of Health, coming in front and saying, giving us every day an update as to what is the state of pandemic. And we see ministers coming up and saying, what's next? What's next? Even the Prime Minister came and said, we will make sure that we will spend all of our development expenditure for this year, and next year it is full gear. So the pandemic has also demonstrated the need for leadership at the political level, leadership at the bureaucratic level. It has shown better governance in terms of innovation. The Ministry of Health, initially, when they did not have enough funds for the protective gear, PPE, personal protective equipment, they became tailors, and they tailored the various protective gear for them to treat patients who were COVID infected. So that also is a demonstration of the innovativeness of public institutions. So we saw collaboration, we see innovation, we see an element of sacrifice, and all this promotes institutional governance, good governance. And it is this good governance that will give confidence to the economy and promote the nation's competitiveness. Of course, we will not argue that we need good, strong institutions that have integrity, that are impartial, that they are true to their charter, and bingo, we will have development like what happens in UK, in Europe, in America, in Singapore, and elsewhere. We are still good. We are good, but we can always do better, as we saw in the TCI competitiveness, in the Transparency Corruption Perception Index. We're still number 61. Singapore is number 2. For Singapore, we can argue that it's a small state, but we don't want to give excuses. If they can be number 2, why can't we be a top 10? You know? Yeah. So yes, I think we have institutional reform in terms of better governance, the way we manage our institutions, and the way we apply the law equally to all. And I think that will give a very high level of confidence to the public and to businesses. And that will, of course, eventually result in better competitiveness and national prosperity.
Okay,
I'm done, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. The book is AIMST Mauglio. This was a book in 2010, I think. It's a good book, it's quite thick, and they compare many societies, why some societies are in the clutches of poverty and why some societies are rich and prosperous. And they say it's all got to do with institutions. And what are institutions? Institutions are not just buildings. Institutions are the laws, the regulations, the norms, the culture, the behavior, people's mindset. Everything combines itself to an institution. So they are laws. Do we have proper laws? Do we have the right regulations? Are they well enforced? Is the government well structured? Is it bloated? Is there overlapping and redundant functions being done by agencies? Is the government lean and thin? So all this is all part of institutions. The government is another big chunk of the institutional framework of the country. Then law administration. Do we have rule of law? Is it free from, is it impartial? Is it free from corruption? Parliament, does it make good laws? What is the level of our parliamentarians? Are they able to envision a future, a bright future for the nation, and apply and develop laws for that future? So all these are institutions, and and we are in the state of reform. We recently reformed MACC. We also reformed the judiciary. We have also now, the Parliament has started the select committees that will be an additional layer of scrutiny of the bills to ensure that they are proper for the development of the nation. And of course, the budget itself. Over to you, Encik.
Okay, Dato, there's another question from Hazlin Muhammad Sali. Pertaining to e-commerce among Malaysian, I could see the likes of Lazada and Shopee, where it was flooded by China product, I guess product from China.
Yeah.
Our government should start promoting our product to abroad. Our entrepreneurs will die in 3 to 5 years if this keep on happening. I guess this is asking for your opinion on that statement.
Yeah, I agree with our questioner. Yes, we must upgrade our e-commerce because now the first point of recourse is Lazada and Shopee, and of course they are all mostly Chinese products, simply because they are cheap. And of course, we do not want to look back and see how come they made it so cheap. And then you'll have a whole host of human rights issues. And so, but the fact is, if we want to fare well in e-commerce, we need to differentiate ourselves. Our products must be differentiated. We must be different from the products that China floods into the market. So what are the products that can give us a differentiation that said, oh, this is a Malaysian product. It is of a better quality. It fits in with the electrical power requirements of the nation. Of course, and with differentiation and with quality comes a higher price. But that's okay. If your product is different and meets the needs of a particular segment of the market, that particular segment would be prepared to pay a higher premium price for a product that is differentiated from the normal rigmarole commodity-based product. So if your product is the same as a product that comes from China, why should they pay you more? So if we want to gain a foothold in e-commerce and in the marketplace, I think Malaysian businesses will have to see how they can make it different from the normal flood of products that come from overseas. So we need to differentiate so that we can command a higher price, and differentiation also goes to quality. Some of the products we buy cheap, but it does not last long. But we also don't want a product that lasts forever. But we want quality, meaning that the product works. While it works and works well, and it meets and adds value to the consumer. So if we want to compete in platforms such as Lazada and Shopee, Malaysian products must be increasingly differentiated, and then and only then will we be able to command a higher price.
In what way, Dato, do you think our government or the authority can help in helping in this sense in creating a product that has their own identity,
own unique features, and that will only come through innovation. You need R&D. Businesses are more short-termist. They don't look more than 3 months, especially in the US, because every quarter the financial analysts will be analyzing your financial performance, And if 2 quarters you are losing money, they will write you off, and nobody will buy your shares. Your shares will sink. You can't raise capital. Eventually, you'll go bankrupt. So generally, businesses are short-term. They don't have the money or the resources to do R&D. Of course, the big multinational companies, they do. So if we want to help businesses to differentiate their products, come up with better quality products, use the latest technology to bring down and go big in scale, so that they can bring down the prices, then you would necessarily have to do R&D. To some extent, the government has done that. It has helped in providing funds for digitalization, etc., for e-commerce. MDAC is working overtime to convert our economy into a digital economy. But beyond that, I think you need to go serious on R&D. And we said one of the 12 pillars of the World Economic Forum: innovation, R&D. And how much do we spend? We only spend less than 1% of our GDP on R&D. Countries like Korea, they spend as much as 5 times, 5%. US, 5%, 4%. Europe, 4%. So these guys are spending 4 times more and registering more patents, more copyrights, more this. They're always innovating. Like Apple, for example, the day it comes up with iPhone 12, tomorrow they're starting on iPhone 13. So that's the intensity of competition, which requires R&D. And I think maybe we need to spend more money on R&D. I think we are spending mostly to dish out a lot of funds on R&D, but it's still 1% compared to that of the developed countries. There's no way we can compete with China in terms of price. The only way we can compete with China is by looking for gaps in their supply chain and coming into their supply chain, and number 2, coming up with products that are differentiated, that match the quality of the European American products.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Welcome. I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, I do think so. Thank you. One of the things that I'm interested in your slides just now is regarding 1 billion to upskill talent, 1 billion allocation to upskill talent. As a trainer yourself, Dato, how do you think, what can be done using that amount? Is it enough? And do you have any suggestion or strategy for it to be utilized, the amount, the allocation to be utilized?
So sorry, in a moment I was fiddling with my
no, because
bullets. I didn't get you. So sorry. Yeah.
The 1 billion
one of the slides.
Talent.
1 billion on talent development.
To upskill talent.
Yeah, 1 billion. Okay. So how do you think we should utilize? Yeah, I think out of that 1 billion, I think 700 million, or I think 700 million I think is going towards upskilling digital talent.
Okay.
Let me check. Hold on, sir. Sorry, 100 million. 1/10 of it goes to enhancing the digital skills of our digital professionals. The rest of it can go to upskilling our semi-skilled labor and upgrade them to skilled labor. The rest can go to TVET, training in vocational education. The trouble is, in our culture, vocational training is not held in high esteem as we would in terms of intellectual and academic learning. I want my son to become a doctor. I want my son to become an engineer. But engineering and the medical profession, they're all in a glut now. But yet, there are people still going to become doctors and engineers. But if you look at Switzerland and Germany, they focus more on TVET. And in fact, the society holds people with TVET education in the same esteem or even better than doctors or engineers. And crane operators, for example, in Germany, earn as much as a doctor. That's because of the level of skills that they bring to their workplace. And it is this talent that feeds their small and medium-sized industries. They call them Mittelstand. But they're not as small like ours. They're when we say they're small and medium, they're actually big. But still, in their scheme of things, in compared to the other big businesses, they considered small and medium scale industries. So, and these small and medium scale industries rely on very specialized, high precision machining, for example, that comes from TVET education in Germany and Switzerland. In fact, they're both world class. And I think we should benchmark. We have started to focus on TVET. There's no doubt about it. The government has always been proactive and it has already focused. And I think the bulk of the money that has been given to upskilling talent should be dedicated to TVET, and that also TVET that is relevant to industry needs. So we cannot just be training them to do welding or drilling, but if they are not relevant to the needs of the industry, then it is pointless as well. So I think part of that money should go into understanding what is the industry needs for talent, and then using it to upgrade our TVET centers so that they can produce the requisite talent for the skilled and semi-skilled level of talent.
Yeah. Okay, Dato. Actually, your statement tallies with what we just did a survey to parents, teachers, and even the student themselves on their tertiary level education, and most of them don't even consider, they don't even thought of TVET when it comes to tertiary level. Semua fikir IPT, so perception is still very low.
We haven't changed the mindset. We cannot cuci kepala otak dia orang and say, hey, going to becoming a mechanic is good. Like, for example, if you take Petronas, if you're an engineer, you don't get much. But if you're an engineer plus a welder, so you know how to weld and all that, bingo, they give you as much as 35,000 ringgit. But our engineers say, oh, I'm an engineer, how can I go and weld? So that mindset must change, that they need to get skills that are relevant to the industry, and in combination with the academic learning of being an engineer, that will enhance their potential and earning power.
Okay, Dato. I think on that note, we've talked for around 1.5 hours. So I guess
yes, lovely.
We can end our session today. And thank you so much.
I'm sorry if I'd been long-winded. I'm so sorry if I had been long-winded.
I think it's nicely done, because we are aiming for 1.5 hours and we managed to get there.
Oh, good. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So thank you so much, Dato, for your session, for your input. And I guess if people are interested in asking you questions, can they email you or?
Yes, please. My email is at the end of my slides, and I think I will. How do I pass the slides to you? I can. This is my email. Can you see my email? So please feel free to drop me a line, and I'll be very happy. Thank you, Encik Muhammad Saidi, for managing the time so well, for being an adept moderator. Once again, thank you to the audience for their very insightful, very incisive questioning, and of course to MPC for making all this possible.
Okay. And even for me, I would like to thank again to Dato and to MPC for having this platform and having Dato, someone as prestigious as Dato to deliver his session, and to the viewers, to the listeners. I hope we may gain something out of this. And so I think that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. And happy Deepavali. I guess it's the right time for me to happy Deepavali to everyone who's celebrating. Happy holidays. Until we meet again, I think next session. So thank you. Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Take care.
Good. Thanks.